Noswaith dda a croeso. Good evening and welcome to our demo farm live. Tonight we are live from the Wern farm in Montgomeryshire. Fy enw I ydy Lee Price. My name is Lee Price and I work for Mentor Business and Farming Connect, and tonight I will be your host. We are really pleased that you are able to join us this evening for our demo farm live. It's a shame that we cannot invite you to the farm here at Wern, but we are going to try our best to present to you the work that has been undertaken at the farm here in Wern as a demonstration farm. This format is new to us, and we hope that you will enjoy this evening's demo farm live event and get a lot out of it. This event will be undertaken through the medium of English, but we welcome questions through the evening. If you would like to post any questions to us in Welsh or English, please do so. We encourage you to do this throughout the evening, and we will ask as many of your questions to Osian or to our speakers as we go through the evening. If you'd like to post any questions, you can do this by clicking on the chat button, which you can find at the bottom of your screen. With us this evening, I am pleased to say that we have a number of speakers who are going to share with us their knowledge and experience of the projects that have been undertaken here this evening. So first of all, I'd like to introduce Kath Price. Kath is our Poultry Technical Officer with Mentor Business, and she has been working with Osian since 2018 on projects here at the farm. Next, I'd like to introduce you to Aled Davis. Aled is from a company called Pruex, and Aled has been working on a project using various sensors to optimize the environment for the laying hen. Next, we have Gwesyn Davis from Lloyd's Feeds, and Gwesyn has worked on the Crackless Egg Project to reduce the number of seconds that are produced here on the farm. And then finally, we have Dave Hodgson from Rose Hill Agriculture, who has worked on a Red Mite project with Osian back in 2018. But before we go on to the projects, I would like to first of all welcome and introduce the star of this evening, Osian Williams from Wern Farm. Nikki can't be with us, his wife, but obviously she plays a major role in the farm business. We're pleased at Farming Connect to be working with Osian as a demonstration farm, and are very grateful for him and the family for hosting the Demo Farm Live event this evening. Also, we are very grateful for the commitment and the that he puts into the projects to make sure that they are as successful as possible. One other thing I'd like to mention is Wern is the very first poultry demonstration farm that Farming Connect and Mentor Business have had. This is important for us as a programme, as we have seen the poultry industry grow within Wales, and especially mid-Wales, over the last 10-15 years. And obviously the poultry sector now plays a large role within the agricultural sector here in Wales. So before we go on to talk about some of the projects that have been undertaken here at the Wern over the last year or two, I'd just like to bring in Osian, and Osian, tell us a little bit about your business here and some of the enterprises that you have at the farm.
The Wern itself is a 1,200 acre farm. I would class it really as an upland stroke hill farm. The land rises from 700 metres to about 1,400 feet in altitude. Yearly, probably we have some like 90 inches of rain, so it's a fair challenge here in the winter months anyway. Mm-hmm. There's beef and sheep on the farm, probably 150 suckler cows, and we've got 1,700 Welsh hardy type ewes, and on top of that another 500 mule crossbred ewes.
Good. you also introduced a number of renewable energy initiatives over the last couple of years. Can you tell us a bit more about them?
Yeah, as soon as we built the poultry shed in 2011, we noticed that electricity costs were rising every year. And then to make us, there was only one way I thought electric would go, and that would be, you know, it would keep on climbing. So in 2014, we put solar panels. We probably put 75 kilowatts of solar panels. And on top of that, after, we invested then in a wind turbine, Endurance 225 wind turbine. So we're pretty self-sufficient now on electricity. And to make use, because we're selling a lot of electric now down the grid, 2 years ago we put 2 ground source heat pumps in to heat both farmhouses on the farm.
So pretty much then your electricity and heating costs are covered by those interventions then?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, we're not having to buy any kerosene or nothing now, so we're just trying to make ourselves as efficient as possible.
Yeah. Did you incur any problems when you were looking at the renewable energy initiatives, or was there support out there?
We use Farming Connect to do a little bit, and to be honest, you know, because where do you start? Yeah. And to be fair, they pointed us in the right place. And planning, you know, you get a lot of hurdles with planning, but thankfully we got through it, and we're here now today.
Yeah, good. Yeah, so just to let our viewers know that you know, that was a clinic that you accessed then, was it, through Farming Connect? So Farming Connect has a wide range of services, and we'll hear about them later on this evening. But you know, through the clinics, as Oshan said, you can access fully funded advice and support on a range of topics. So moving on to the Poultry Enterprise and the hens, just tell us a bit more about where it started and where we are today.
The interest started probably in 2009. My brother works up in Scotland, and they built a poultry shed, a free range, and going to see him and you know what they were doing up there, and then going to see a couple of other producers in the area. We took interest, went in for planning in 2010, got delayed through planning with, you know, different problems, and the shed was built in 2011, and today this is our 8th, we're just coming to the end of our 8th flock. So it's been a challenge, but we're getting there.
Yeah. What number of birds have you got here?
There's 32,000 birds here. At the minute, they're Boven brown birds, and to be fair, they've done very well. Yeah.
Do you find them a good bird, a good breed to with the laying, and they're sort of are they wild, or are they?
You've got to manage them. It's a good bird for the current market. They produce a large egg, and you've just got to keep on top of them. They might be, you know, they've been very, very good to me, fairly.
Yeah. And productivity, how has that lasted throughout the flock? Because they're quite old now. They're coming to the end, you know.
So today, last weekend, sorry, they were 77 weeks. So we run them. These are going out next Tuesday, so they'll be going out to 79 weeks. I think productivity to 77 weeks was something like 359 eggs per bird. So mortality was about 3.7%.
Yeah.
So they've done very well.
Yeah. And where do you have your feed from, and who do you sell your eggs through? Who's your packer?
I'm contracted to Lloyd's Animal Feeds, and our eggs this flock have gone to Noble Foods.
Noble Foods.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're happy and pleased with that? Yeah.
Yes, we are very happy. Yeah, fair play.
Yeah. And then to help you with your business, you're also part of Farming Connect discussion group, a poultry discussion group, obviously. Why did you join that, and what have you got out of that service?
Well, to be honest, when we went into poultry, at the beginning, the first 3 flocks, you could say, are pretty easy going. There's no disease challenge, or you know, there's nothing much can go wrong. But as we noticed, as the shed got older, we saw there was much more challenges, and you know, you had to sort the challenges out there. Otherwise it would affect your mortality and, you know, production end of the day.
Yeah. So going in ending this flock now, going into looking forward to a new flock.
Yeah.
It's always exciting.
Yeah.
What are your aims when a new flock comes in? What are your aims and aspirations for that flock?
Every time the birds go out, we try to do a better job on the next one. So it's just, if possible, push for more eggs, bring the seconds down, just make yourself more efficient, really.
Yeah, yeah. So what, when you became a demonstration farm, what are the areas of focus that you wanted to do to obviously get that efficiency in the flock?
I think as poultry farmers, we're not quite keen enough on water quality, and I think as well red mite control. And one thing for us I've seen is the environment of the shed. I don't think the ventilation on any poultry shed I've seen is perfect, and my ideal scenario is, you should be able to go into a free range shed and the litter should be perfect everywhere. It seems to be a problem in every shed being, matty litter in patches.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's just trying to make it as good as possible.
And you mentioned water quality there. Obviously some sheds, people that will be listening will be on mains, so they don't maybe have such a problem, but I think more and more sheds with the cost of water are going to boreholes or whatever. So what would you say then, what have you done here to improve the water quality of a spring or a borehole supply?
Well, we started off, through Farming Connect, we actually tested all the water supplies we have here. We probably have 4 large springs which we use for drinking water, and we have a borehole. And before starting doing anything in the poultry side, we tested to see what we actually had coming down to the farm yard to start off with.
Yeah.
And after sorting that side out, we then started using Aled's product to try to make the water as good as possible.
Okay, brilliant. So yeah, so that's a good link into our first project. So I'd like to introduce now Kath Price, who is the Poultry Technical Officer for Farming Connect. And Kath is going to give us a bit of a background to the relationship of the Wern with Farming Connect, and a brief introduction to our first project looking at the optimum environment for the laying hen.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Lee. So good evening, everyone. So in terms of background, so we've been working with Oshan, as Lee said, since 2018, where he was originally a focus site for us at Farming Connect, and we ran a 12-month project with him, looking to reduce red mite in the flock, and we'll be coming on to discuss that in a little bit more detail later on this evening with Dave Hodson, who ran that project with us. But more recently, however, Oshan has become a demonstration site, and as Lee said, that's our first poultry demonstration site, and where he's going to be working with us for 3 years in total to run projects with the aim of improving his business, and then we can share some of those results and findings then with the wider industry to hopefully benefit other egg producers in Wales. So as a demonstration site, the farm is to be involved in 2 projects over a 3-year period. One is a shorter 1-year project and then a longer 3-year project. So we're currently into year 1 of the 3 years and have completed the shorter project, which is looking at reducing the amounts of seconds, which we'll come on to after. But the other one, the longer one, and the first one we're going to be discussing tonight, is where we are looking to achieve optimal environmental conditions to maximise productivity and profitability out of the flock. And just to say, Oshan is a really suitable farmer to work with as a demonstration site farmer, because he's got strong attention to detail and he's open to trialing new techniques and products and running those projects really carefully and correctly. So Oshan's in his shed day in, day out, and like I said, he's very meticulous with his birds. So Oshan and the family sat down with me last summer, I think, and we scoped out some project ideas. Oshan felt he didn't really want to focus on any sort of particular diseases or didn't have sort of a worm problem or anything like that, but water quality and the environment condition, as he's just said now, were two of the main areas that he felt he wanted to focus on to improve his business. And that's, those are two things that we felt that, other farmers are facing as well, that want to try and improve to enhance their bird performance. So yeah, we came across Aled and his business, which is Pruex, and they use good bacteria to try and overcome bad bacteria, and they use a combination approach that can be proactively used to enhance gut health and bird immune systems, or reactively try and sort any issues that might be occurring in the flock cycle. But obviously, we're going for the more proactive use of the products, so that we're trying to get the environment right to hopefully stop any problems occurring. So yeah, there's a program of products that are administered to enhance the environment of the birds, which Aled will come on to. But we've installed sensors throughout the shed, and data is shared then to us via LoRaWAN, which is the device you can see there on the end of the shed. And those have been installed across all of our 18 demonstration sites at Farming Connect. And then the sensors that are in the shed then monitor temperature, humidity, carbon dioxide and ammonia. And we've also installed an automatic misting piece of equipment which will automatically spray product when the environment reaches a certain level. So yeah, I don't want to talk too much about the project, because I'll let Aled explain more about it, the steps we've taken and the steps we've got to take. So I'll hand back over to you, Lee, and we can go to Aled if that's okay.
Thank you, Kath. Yeah, thank you for that overview. Yeah, so just quickly before we go to Aled, just a reminder, if you have any questions, please send them in throughout the evening, and we'll make sure we ask as many as we possibly can. So yes, to give us more ideas and more information on the project, I'd like to firstly show a short video from Aled at Pruex, and then Aled will give us a live presentation as well afterwards.
Okay, Shemai, Aled Davis from Pruex. We're working on the project here with Farming Connect. We're looking at optimizing bird health by affecting their environment. So in a normal chicken shed, bacteria from feces will turn uric acid into ammonia, which is bad for bird health, but it's also bad for the environment. So we'll be measuring the amount of ammonia that's generated using sensors, and we're lucky here at the Wern there's a public LoRa gateway, so we can get that information from the shed onto our desktops to analyze remotely. We can also send a message back to some sensors that will be, or some sprayers rather, that we'll be installing in the building, so that we can modulate the amount of ammonia generated. So our tools are basically Mother Nature. We'll be using bacteria that comes from soil to combat bacteria from feces in the building. The bacteria we're using doesn't make ammonia from uric acid, it makes water vapor, so it dries up the building. That gives a far healthier environment for the birds in the building, and a far better environment as a result for us as farmers, for workers in the building, and for the environment outside the building. So we'll be measuring ammonia, carbon dioxide, temperature and humidity inside the building, and wind direction, precipitation, dew point, temperature and humidity outside the building. So as temperature increases, the amount of ammonia will modulate as well. So we'll be measuring these variables using sensor technology, communicating via the LoRa gateway, and ensuring that the levels of ammonia are maintained at a low level, which will help with bird health. We'll also be treating the water with soil bacteria to prevent the buildup of biofilm, which is basically bad bacteria making a nest in the water pipes. And once we've achieved that, we can use a bit more nature then in the form of herbal products and vitamins to modulate immunity within the birds. By doing that, we'll be able to use the chicken's own immune system to control red mites. So if you've got healthy birds, you've got sick red mites, and by us keeping the birds healthy, we'll have sick red mites in the building. And also we'll be looking at modulating eggshell quality. So by getting a better environment, lower ammonia, healthier water, better air quality in the building, we should see better production figures. So that's more eggs per bird for a longer period of time throughout the crop. We should see less mortality. But we're not just going to rely on the sensors, we're going to do old school as well. We're going to take regular swab samples, culture those and see what bacteria are growing inside the building. So we'll have old-fashioned culture plates giving us the identity of the bacteria that dominate in the building. We'll see the result of those bacteria that are dominant. Hopefully they'll be our soil bacteria, and then we'll see less ammonia. We'll be able to measure that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll now go live to Aled, who will tell us more about the project and share some of the information that has already been gathered by the sensors. Over to you, Aled.
Roswitha, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Farming Connect, for this opportunity, and to the Williams family at Wern for allowing us at Pruex to work with them on this project. So, what we've got sensors in the building, and when this crop of birds are out and the new crop of birds will be going in, we'll be installing an automated spraying system so that we can spray non-infective bacteria at regular periods within the actual building. The ammonia via the LoRa gateway the sensor data will be populating our dashboards. And then we've got some rule software. So, for example, if the ammonia hits a particular point, we can send a message via our rule software to the sprayers to spray extra product to keep that ammonia level down. So we know that we can measure the ammonia content over time. We can see that on our desktop remotely. We know that by adding our bacteria that originates from soil into the water, we get a far cleaner, healthier water to the birds. That takes pressure off their immune system. Once we've got clean water and clean air in the building, we can use vitamin and herbal products then to help the birds combat challenges in the building, such as red mites. So if you've got sick red mites, you've got healthy birds. If you've got good eggshell quality, especially after 50 weeks of production, you've got healthy birds. Okay. So if we look and drill down a bit into the actual dashboard, this is live now at the Wern. So we're looking 7 minutes ago, there was no rain. That we've got 3 columns here, 3 rows and 6 columns. So the top row, we're looking at the temperature in Voile, the village where the shed is positioned. So we can see the temperature in Voile at the minute is around 20 degrees. If we go down that column, shed 1, 23 degrees, shed 2, 23 degrees. So the building's ventilation system is altering the temperature by dragging out hot air and pulling in cold air from the environment outside. We're also able to compare humidity for Voile itself, the village, for shed 1 and shed 2. We're looking at the top line then at the pressure, precipitation, probability, and cloud cover. So at the minute, there isn't much blue sky in Voile. We can see on the bottom right, on the right-hand side column, the bottom 2 grids there, we can see a low amount of ammonia. Now this dashboard is just showing us current times. This is live now. But we want to be able to see over time, and that's what we're looking at on this dashboard. So here we can see ammonia over time. It's regulated by the building at around 15 to 20 parts per million. The next graph down, we're looking at carbon dioxide. The third line down, we're looking at humidity. The yellow line is the humidity in Voile itself, comparing to the shed. So we can see the ventilation system in the shed is coping with this variance in humidity, pulling in cold air, expelling hot air. That's how the building keeps the birds healthy. The next chart, we're looking at temperature, and again we can see modulation in the village of Voile and less modulation within the building. So here we can see that the manufacturer of the building has got a system that can flatline the temperature and humidity. Although we do see spikes when it's really hot outside, you get an increase regardless of the building's ventilation system. This bottom line, the heat index or the heat stress index that was generated by Iowa State University, we like looking at this over time because it can tell us exactly the ratio between temperature and relative humidity. It gives us a figure that we can see when there's real stress on these birds. So top line here, ammonia. The question is that good or bad? How does that compare to other buildings? So this is a benchmarking dashboard. Here we've got data from the same manufacturer, different shed. This particular building, there were problems with mortality. There was quite a high mortality in this building, and the ammonia was around that 15 to 20 parts per million. We worked with the farmer, and they were spraying our bacteria in the shed, changing the environment in the shed from fecal bacteria that uses uric acid to make ammonia into soil bacteria that doesn't make ammonia. And we can see within about a month, we're down to what I call pre-expand levels of ammonia, really low ammonia, really healthy for the birds. Now, if we go forward a month and go to the 19th of July, so with the dashboard, we can see the point where we've stopped spraying in the shed, and the ammonia reverts back to fecal ammonia levels and back up towards that 20 parts per million, which isn't great for bird health at all. So we know the buildings can maintain 10 to 15 to 20 parts per million, but bird health requires far lower levels of ammonia. And we can modulate that using our bacteria. So if we look at current up as far as today, what we can see here is a massive spike at the end of the crop in this particular building. Now what's happened here, the birds have been emptied from the building. The feces and litter is still in the building, but they've turned the ventilation off. So you can see the effect that pulling hot air out and dragging cold air has on the building. If there would be some serious ammonia generated from that uric acid if the buildings weren't ventilated. That's not safe for humans to be in when you get to that sort of level. So the question is, how are we doing at the Wern? So if we switch on the Wern data to benchmark against this, we can see, like similar buildings from the same manufacturer, the Wern, without bacterial modulation, without changing the bacteria, without spraying bacteria on the litter, it's at that 15 to 20 parts per million. So what we'll be doing at the Wern is we'll have an automated system spraying bacteria periodically throughout the day on the litter. That bacteria will reduce the amount of ammonia, but if temperature or humidity modulates, it's a high rainfall area, so there's the possibility of lots of moisture being dragged into the building as the cold air has been dragged in. If the ammonia modulates and increases, we'll have a rule that says, let's do an in-betweeny spray because the ammonia's got to 10 parts per million. So the LoRa gateway at the Wern enables us to have this closed circuit of modulation. And because we've got this closed circuit of modulation, we can see the effect on red mite, so we can modulate that. Once the water's clean, once the air is clean, we can use our ractile range to further help those hens combat the pressures that they're under. So it's really a case of modulating further than the building's ventilation systems to get clean air for the birds and for the workers, the farmers themselves within the building. That ammonia isn't generated, isn't a threat to a larger environment, and at the end of the day is a public good. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Aled, for that informative presentation. One question for you. So if any of our viewers watching this evening have any problems with ammonia, how will that ammonia, that increase in ammonia in the shed, affect those birds?
Well, it'll certainly affect any sort of vaccine efficacy, because ammonia, it'll the same as in humans, it'll really damage the throat of the chicken. You've got a membrane there, mucous membrane. It'll make them sick. It'll increase mortality. Basically, that's what we generally see. That example I showed you, there was a high percentage of mortality, and we modulated both ammonia down and mortality down. What we're seeing as buildings get older, there's more biofilm in the building, there's more challenge on the water, the birds are facing more pressures. And what we do is we take nature, we take bacteria from soil, we take herbal products, we take vitamins, and we modulate, we change that environment so it takes pressure off the birds. You've still got to worm them, you've still got to have a worming strategy, you've still got to have a vaccination strategy. If you've got high ammonia, the manufacturers of vaccines will be pulling their hair out, because they do trial work to try and ensure efficacy. But if the birds are unhealthy because of high mortality, you're in trouble.
And one other question. What is your opinion of the importance of the sensors and the LoRaWAN equipment in the poultry sector going forward, and within this project as well?
I think the combination of culture media place, where we can identify bacteria, and the sensors that the LoRa allow us to collect data from, the importance of those is in visualization. Farmers are practical people. If a farmer sees a hole in a fence, he can go and fix it. If he sees a flat tire, he'll fix it. They can't see bacteria and they can't see ammonia. With the LoRaWAN enabled sensors, they can see it in real time. They can analyze data over periods of time. We can learn how to use more nature to keep these animals healthy. We're surrounding hens, free-range hens, in buildings with feces and uric acid and then ammonia, and we're expecting them to deal with this. Well, we can take pressure off them and they'll pay us in eggs and less mortality.
Thank you, Aled, for those answers. I just quickly want to go back to Oshan. As a farmer, as a poultry producer, your aim is to produce as many eggs as we've covered as possible per flock. So what do you think, the digital technology and the new technology, what part do you think going forward now that can play in a sector where, attention to detail is so important?
I remember when we started off back in 2011, probably the normal then was something like 280, 290 eggs per bird. today, if you're doing 315, probably you're not making a lot of money. So the more you can maximise, it costs you the same amount to feed a hen. It costs the same to feed, to produce 330 eggs per bird as what it does with 310. Mm-hmm. So it's a business end of the day.
Yeah. So your sort of your opinion and your message to everybody listening is to embrace technology and
you've got to be as efficient as possible.
Yeah. One question that has come in is for yourself, and the question's from Joe, a listener called Joe. He would like to know about floor eggs and the Bivan breed. How are they with floor eggs? Do they lay a lot on the floor?
The bovine bird, it's a bit of a challenging bird. You handle the bovine different to what you would with the lowman. I do think there's more work with the bovine, no doubt about that. But to be fair to a bovine, when you get to week 70 onwards, I think you'll have a job to find a bird which carries on. Yeah. With a problem with your lowman, usually there's peaks and troughs. Fantastic at the beginning. With a bovine, she's a bit slower coming in, but at the end, she just keeps on going.
Mm-hmm. And egg quality with the breed, is that good as well?
Yeah. I think at the moment we send our eggs to Noble Foods. Mm-hmm. I think our average, the gradings were about 5-6% seconds at 77 weeks. So it's pretty good, really.
And that really leads us on then to our sort of second project, which is the Crackless Egg Project, which the plan was then to look at reducing the number of seconds produced within the flock. So I would like to hand back briefly to Kath just to give us a brief overview on the project.
Sorry, hi. Yeah, so as I said earlier, the first project that we've done with Oshan as a demonstration site was the smaller project of the two. And yeah, that was looking at reducing the levels of seconds. As Oshan just said earlier, that his seconds are relatively low, but it was just something we wanted to do. It was something that Lloyd's offered, and we thought it can benefit other egg producers, and it doesn't take, there's not a big cost with it. It's not a big time commitment or anything like that. And there was some good financial benefits that we saw from it. So we'll hand over now, if that's okay, to Gwesyn Davis from Lloyd's, who supported us with the project and provided us with the Crackless Egg device.
Good evening. Thank you, Kath. Yes, as you said, Gwesyn Davis, I work for Lloyd's Animal Feeds, providing field support for our egg laying site in Mid Wales. I got involved with Farming Connect and Oshan at the Wern with this trial using the Lloyd's Crackless Egg device. Other integrators have them. It's something that we use to be able to go out to sites that we look after day in, day out, and assess where we can make improvements on their equipment. The Crackless Egg is egg size and egg shape. It's filled with Bluetooth sensors, which is conveyed across to a tablet that we can follow real time, walking alongside the egg as it makes its way along the system, picking up any trouble spots. It allows us to see, as we're going along, exactly which points are scoring what levels. Scores of 30 to 40 will result in hairline fractures, which will be picked up at packing station level of seconds. 40 to 50 will be sort of larger hairline fractures, potentially invisible at a farm level, but 50 plus will be fractures that are certainly visible at farm level and will be graded out as farm seconds. What we did at Oshan's was to run the Crackless Egg across his equipment and follow the progress through. As stated, we identified areas such as the transfer points and the grader that were giving higher scores. I believe the highest score on the day was 60. However, most of the system was working very, very well. Oshan's level at seconds at the start of the trial were very good. So we weren't expecting to make any significant improvements. However, as Oshan touched earlier, a lot of flocks are running longer and longer, and if you're not careful, you pay the price post 70 weeks when eggshell strength gets less, and we're expecting more and more for these birds. We identified problem areas. We went back in halfway through the trial to assess and to see which improvements we could make. These were things such as tightening the egg conveyor. We used plastic deflectors on the top area to reduce the speed and impact of eggs clashing into each other. We altered egg belt gradient, and we also, having run the egg several times across the system, really started to appreciate that the speed of the egg belt plays a big part. Towards the end of the day of collection, it's natural that farmers are busy people and have got places to be. Egg belt speed can be turned up to collect those last few eggs coming through. When the egg belt is on its highest setting, it goes without saying this is when it's most liable for fractures as those eggs are coming onto transfer points. It's a very cheap and easy way of assessing where you can make improvements of seconds onto your farm. The financial cost of seconds on your farm or a poultry farm can be significant. The egg market has been in an extremely tight place now for a year or two as a minimum, and farmers must look to see really where they can make improvements on their own site, and to see exactly what that impact will have on average egg price. It's quite interesting when you work it out. Based on Lloyd's Animal Feed Group's average of 26 dozen to 72 weeks on an average egg price of 88p, 1% is equal to about £5,500. Sites that are running at a consistently high level of seconds throughout flock will have huge financial implications of this. As we said earlier, Oshan's level of seconds at the start of the trial were good. I think his level of seconds at the end there that he stated at 77 weeks at 5-6% are fantastically low. And I think that really does show that the effort that he's gone to improve his system using the results of this trial have paid off. Is a trend. Every farmer in a tight egg market and running a business is looking to improve margin over feed and pullet as much as we can. Therefore, flocks are being run longer. We're seeing plenty of flocks running to 80 weeks at a time where the bird is worn out after a long period of time laying well and laying large eggs. Therefore, looking at what we can do to really reduce this, and yes, nutrition comes into it, breed comes into it, but also it's very easy to look at these other things and not actually go into your shed and see, well, what can we do differently here? Is there any improvements that can be made? A recent example that we've actually done at Lloyd's since being at Oshan's was out to a farm that had seconds levels mid-flock, about 40 odd weeks of 10%. It took a fair bit of trial work to get, investigation, should we say, to get it down. But after a long period of time and going in and out several times, we got that down to 3.5%. If action wasn't taken at that particular time in the flock, and he was planning to run his birds to 76 weeks, he would have had huge financial implications for him. So it was a really, really useful little trial. It's not a particularly long thing to do. It's a service that we can offer to anybody really that is interested in just assessing how they can improve their kit, as I'm sure others can. And it was good, and I'd like to think that Oshan had some benefit from it. We certainly enjoyed doing the work, and would like to follow it up in due course. So thank you.
Thank you, Gressin, for that update. One question for yourself. You've mentioned some of the pinch points, the areas where the issues can happen. Are there any size of sheds, 32,000 versus 16,000 or 64,000, where there may be more crossover points for the egg that causes are more likely to have a larger impact on the crackless egg on the seconds?
Most modern poultry farms such as Oshan's are built and designed in the same way. There are the same amount of transfer points within a 32,000 end on end as they would be on a 16. It does depend if you're side by side like Oshan's, and yes, he would have more transfer points, so at higher risk. I think there are different designs and different layouts on equipment internally that can result in higher levels of seconds if things haven't been thought through properly or set up properly, but these are all things that can be altered. An example of which was at Oshan's, where the egg belt gradient coming up to the top transfer point was extremely steep in one part. We dropped that by about 3 mil, and from my recollection, we dropped our scores there from about 40 down to about 25 to 30 G on the tablet with the crackless egg. So it does show that you're not necessarily restricted. Farm size, it doesn't matter how big or how small you are. Every egg does count. It really is important to keep second level low. Poultry, as most of agriculture is these days, is a numbers game. It goes without saying, the bigger the site you are, the more it's going to cost you. So it certainly is worth looking into it.
Yeah, so I think in sort of summary, the project was worthwhile doing, even though, as we said, Oshan's seconds are relatively low. But I think this was a quick win. Like we said, it didn't cost much, didn't take much effort to do, but there can be real benefits from doing it. So yeah, worthwhile doing, and especially when when you've taken your kit out, you've cleaned out, and you bring in your system back together, it might be just worth running it through then to make sure then that you've identified those impact areas and reduced the risks.
Thank you, Kath. Just bringing in Oshan then quickly on the project. Were you surprised with what you found when the crackless egg went through on the system?
I was actually, because everybody thinks their system, is running fine, and it's just I was surprised how small of a drop affects an egg, really. Fair play.
So you just made some basic changes yourself. You didn't have to get any technicians in or anybody to change the equipment?
I think it's a 13 mil spanner or something.
Yeah, no, well that's good to know. So basically anybody wanting to use that as an experiment is worthwhile doing.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I would definitely do it.
Brilliant, thank you. Another question that we'll go to that's come in, back to Alid, really, a question for you, Alid. It's about ammonia levels outside the shed. And what the question is what is the acceptable percentage of manure outside the shed and ammonia levels outside the shed?
I think that's a question for Natural Resources Wales, really. We don't actually measure the ammonia outside the building. We're measuring inside the building, so it's not a parameter I've got a good handle on. What I do know is that some of the new planning sort of loopholes that you've got to jump through, or loops that you've got to jump through, require perhaps acid scrubbers to try and capture ammonia from the building, prevent it from going out into the greater atmosphere. But of course, that's like closing the door on the stable after the horse has bolted. What we're concentrating on is changing the bacteria within the building so that the ammonia isn't generated, and then food production doesn't generate a greenhouse gas such as ammonia or carbon dioxide. So I'd answer it by saying a low amount, and really we don't want our food production to be generating high amounts of ammonia.
Thank you for that, Alid. Those have covered off our two projects that are live at the moment here at the Wern. Another project that took place back in 2008 when Oshan and the Wern was a focus farm with Farming Connect, was a project on Red Mite. So I would just like to bring in now Dave from Rose Hill Agriculture to give us a background to the project and the results of that project.
Oh, hello, my name's David Hodgson. I'm from Ray's Agricultural Trading Company. With St David's, we've got 16 million birds under our care in the free range and colony sectors. But what we also do is we specialise in poultry vaccines, so we provide support throughout the industry. The project that we did with Oshan was in 2018. We treated it 20 weeks with Exalt. It had pretty much only just come out then, so we wanted to assess how effective it was. We got a period of approximately 4.5 months without Red Mite. We then had to go back in at 40. Yes, we went back in at 44 weeks of age, and that saw us through to the end of the flock. So the results of this, we last took a reading at about 53 weeks, and mortality was at 1.4%. Production was at about 92%, and that takes us to where we are now. So when we look at Red Mite, one of the big issues that we've got is the change in poultry housing. So Red Mite hate ammonia. Now, nature has this wonderful way of filling gaps. So we found that the birds would lay for longer, they'd remain healthier when we started to get rid of deep pit housing, when we moved away from flat deck housing. But as we did that, we also lost a natural inhibitor of Red Mite. So even though we still get ammonia in a free range house now, it's far less than what you get in a flat deck house. So predominantly our work is with vaccine, but now more so we've had to move into controlling the Red Mite. As we've got a handle on the poultry diseases, we've got ILT under control, Salmonella's under control. The two things that are really knocking birds are infectious bronchitis and Red Mite. So I'm going to go into my presentation now, and we've got a video as well coming up. So when we look at the life cycle of the Red Mite, we have to remember that it's very, very dependent on the environment that the Red Mite has actually been laid into. So heat is one of the big drivers, so is humidity. So if you've got a house over 25 degrees and you have relative humidity of around 70, the life cycle can take about 5 days. When it gets colder in winter, it gets extended out to about between 12 and 17 days. So the life cycle is what we mean for the Red Mite to go from an egg to a larvae, the proto-nymph, due to a nymph and adult. So it will not feed when it becomes a larvae. It will shed its ectoskeleton, take its first feed as a proto-nymph. It'll then go and burrow away into the surrounding places of the actual building. It'll shed, come back out, feed, shed, come back out, and then it becomes an adult. So each adult is going to lay in the region of about 30 eggs in clusters of 8 eggs at a time. And when we're looking at Red Mite, we have to take into account that it's sucking blood. So it's inserting its feeder from one chicken into another. So that causes quite a significant spread of any disease within the house. The other issue that we've got with it is that it suppresses the bird's immune system. So not only is it spreading any blood-borne disease, which is essentially all blood-borne diseases, it's also leading to the bird's immune system being suppressed. So in incredibly bad cases, the birds will actually die from anemia. So if that red blood cell count goes below 30%, I've got a slide at the end, had cases where there's been significant mortality driven by this alone. It also causes an increase in seconds. A lot of that is also due to the bird's energy system being diverted towards replacing the lost blood as opposed to going towards laying the eggs. The main places where they will form their colonies are near where the birds lay and where they roost at night. So this in itself also drives system and floor eggs. Go to the next slide. So what we have here is a female Red Mite. So males and females, that's a 1-to-1 ratio. An incredibly successful parasite. So mites have always been part of the tapestry of nature. So they've been mites found preserved from 85 million years ago. So it's very much part of it having any mammals present. They will reach full sexual maturity around 7 days, and they can, in cases, get up to 150,000 red mite per hen. If you think about their evolution, they would have originally colonized around the bird's nest, and they've got an inbuilt sensor. So if you look on the first picture, they're able to pick up through that head area of the red mite CO2 levels, light, vibration, and warmth. So when the birds would fly away, when they would leave the nest, the mite would then burrow down into the infrastructure of the tree, and then they could wait there for 9 months if needed. And then as soon as that heat signature comes back, they wake up. This is why when you're turning around your poultry shed, it's so important to turn it around, to actually treat with some form of a caricide quite quickly, because as soon as the temperature drops, those red mite will start burrowing down into the system. And that's one of the other problems that we have in the free range sector. So it's less of an issue in cages because there are less places for them to go, but because the free range system is so enriched, a big problem that we've got is that we can't actually get to them when we're spraying them. So if we move on to the next slide. So what we see here are the red mite eggs, and just for relative size, that's a female red mite beside the egg. So each mite's going to lay about 30 eggs in clusters of 8. Now this is quite an horrendous sport for everybody, but red mite do mate. So a good night out if you're a red mite would be, they would come out when it goes dark, when they know it's safe to feed. They would then mate for, well, some experts have watched this, I've never seen it myself, but between 14 minutes and an hour. Female red mite will take a blood feed, and then she will go and burrow down and lay her eggs. Adam, if we could play that video now, please. Everyone's going to feel quite itchy now, so I do apologise. So, this is a trial site we were working on where we created a false nest for the red mite. And as we go across, we can see the eggs. The mite that we can see that are translucent, that would be the larval stage, so that's only got 6 legs. And then when you see the ones with 8 legs, when they become part of the Arachnidia family, that's an adult mite. So that's an adult mite right in front of us now. Now this would be beautiful if it wasn't so horrendous. So this is the larval stage hatching from the egg. So what you can see at the back is actually the rear of the mite. And that's it pulling itself out, and you can see it's just getting its last 2 legs out. And then the front of the mite is just emerging now. So this is a pool of red mite, different life stages. This sample was put under a microscope within a couple of hours of being taken away from the poultry farm, hence why they're so active. And as you can see, the colour of the red mite's blood is solely dependent on when it's fed. So they will go between 24 and 36 hours without feeding. It's kind of like a scab. The longer something goes, the longer blood goes, the more the red blood cells dissipate and it becomes darker. As you can see as well, if you look on the screen, you'll see the ectoskeletons. So they've got 4 life stages, and each time, kind of like a tarantula, they will shed that ectoskeleton and then move on. So this is an up-close image. And what we're going to get in a second is we're going to get the actual business end of the red mite. So a big part of the reason that they create such a toll on the bird is if you look close at the screen, you'll see the front pincers, and then you'll see like a hair-like spike. That's what it inserts into the bird and drinks through. So if you imagine you've got a flock that's got a bad red mite infestation, not only are they immunosuppressed, if there's a bacteria in the shed, such as erysipelas, that can survive for an incredibly long time, and obviously it's in the blood. And here we have a trap. So this is a trap taken out of a house. This is a trial house where we were actually trying a therapeutic product. it didn't work, really. That's the simplest way to put it. And this is why my wife always makes me do all of these kind of jobs in the garage, because she would kill me if I attempted to bring that into the house. As you can see, they move very quickly, and what they're looking for is a place to hide away. Thanks for that, Adam. So now going back to the slides, I'm aware I'm time limited on this, so I'm going to just go through these quite quickly. And this is just images of the same thing. So that mite there is just fed, the bright red one. We've then got the eggs, and then we've got the larvae in front of it. Again, that's where they're feeding through. So as you can imagine, if you had 150,000 of those feeding on you, there'll be significant stress involved, and that also stops the bird from resting. Another key sign of a red mite infestation is the birds will lose the feathers on their back and on the back of their neck. That's from preening. And if you look at night vision footage of birds that have got a bad red mite infestation, because the red mite feed at night, that's when they're most restless. So they're not actually resting. That's one of the big issues of this. And they're also eating more as well, so feed becomes a bigger factor. So when they form their colonies, the females go on the outside of the colony, and the larvae go in the middle. So they're protecting the larvae and the eggs. So if you imagine you're spraying that now, the big problem you'll have is you'll kill the females, but you will not be killing the eggs, and that egg will become a reproductive female in 5.5 days. So if you are going to spray, you need a 7-day gap, and then you need to go in again. If you're spraying once per month, that's not enough, because the spray, especially if there's not enough of it used, won't penetrate and kill the larvae. Now, this is a great way of checking if you've got a red mite infestation. So in this case, it was a lady that put the egg down her blouse to warm the egg up, but you could put it in your pocket, both work, and it was sat on a pile of sweepings for a period of 40 minutes. As you can see, that's bad. In this site, I've got the mortality chart at the end, which shows just how bad it was. So this is the trapping mechanism. This is what we used at Oshans. As a farmer, you know when you've got red mite. Everybody knows when they've got red mite. You see it on the eggs. The trapping, it's a handy tool, but it'll never be a skilled stockman's eye. So this was the site where we struggled quite badly with the mortality. So we first treated with Exalt in this situation in late July, start of August. What they've been doing before is spraying, but the spray was failing to keep it under control when it started to get warmer. And then we went and subsequently, it lasted for 11 months in this site, and then it started to come up again. We treated again, and it follows a similar curve each year. So it lasts a lot longer in colony. The main reason for that, we've figured out to a point, is that in a free-range environment, first of all, you've got areas outside where the red mite will be going into the bark of the trees. They'll be bedding down in any kind of wooden structures. And second of all, wild birds do carry red mite. So there are lots of natural routes of reinfection. So we've used all three of these. Exalt, incredibly successful. It kills absolutely everything it comes into contact with. So it goes into the bird's blood. It's a fluorolana treatment. It lasts for 20 days after the second administration. When it's in the bird's blood, when the red mite feeds on it, it's got something called a GABA inhibitor. So basically it stops the CNS from working properly. When that CNS doesn't work, it stops laying eggs. Spraying the environment, this is getting harder. The EU have, in their wisdom, banned lots of the effective caricides. So we have the choice of using a Silesia or a slightly weaker caricide. Again, the volume of water you use is vital for that. Then you've got therapeutic treatments. So these affect, again, the nervous system of the mite. These might be garlic-based, which is naturally toxic to red mite. In terms of effectiveness, I would put it in that order as you see on there. So you've got a veterinary licensed product, you've got sprays and therapeutic treatments. But I'd love to find a successful therapeutic treatment because I think that would work fantastically, because I do think spraying is getting harder and harder. If you've got dust, your spray won't work. That's one of the problems. It'll absorb the water, so you have to use a significant amount of water, probably about 150 litres, 100 litres in a house. So Exalt, this is just what we went through. So 2 doses a week apart. It can be used once every 3 months. You wouldn't want to do that because it's very expensive, but using it 1 to 2 times in a flock around the summertime can be very effective when you're struggling to stay on top of it. And you'll know if you're struggling to stay on top of it. You'll see a drop in production, you'll see anemia in the comb of the birds, and you may see blood spotting on the eggs, and it'll just be more noticeable because red mite will stay away from light when they can. If you start to see the clumps on the outside, that's when you get issues. So far we've done 4 colony sites, 46 free range sites. It kills almost immediately, but in 2 weeks you'd look for them all to be gone. The only problem you've got is if you treat in winter and the outsides of the shed are very cold, what happens is the mite, when it gets down below about 8 degrees, they start to shut down. And then if you get a warmer spell and those mite haven't fed, they wake up and start feeding, so very difficult. The other issue is when you don't empty all the water out the lines, and the birds at the end of the lines, when you turn a dosatron on essentially to do a treatment, whether it's vaccination or anything else, it'll push the clear water to the end. So the birds at the end of the line are only having clear water. So if you get a vaccine reaction, it's often that as well. So you need to empty the lines out until the dye is present and you know the effective treatments at the end of the lines. The best results come from using it when you do it over the course of an entire day pretty much. So we always do 3/4 of a day. The reason for that is the stronger birds, the more dominant birds, will push the others out the way and drink first. If you don't allow enough stock solution, you're going to fail to reach all the birds effectively. It's stable for 24 hours when mixed, so again, works well. Now, biosecurity, that's the massive fall down of red mite infestation. So red mite can be carried from site to site very easily. They can also come in on egg trays. I mean, you know, everybody listening to this will know that they can come in through a wide variety of means. You can have an engineer visit, etc., etc. So when spraying, we use a product called Durgal. There are other effective sprays out there. They're all just means to control. So first of all, if you spray in the daylight, you will get less than 50% of the kill you would possibly get when spraying when it's darker. So we switched a lot of our customers to spraying after 1 to 2 hours the lights off, and that made a huge difference in the kill level. So again, if you're going to spray, it's best to do it 2 treatments a month, 7 days apart. When it's hot, you may need to do more. Therapeutic drinking water treatments. These are interesting. Again, we're trialing the product at the minute. Those mites that you saw in the film, they were actually from a trial site, so that one didn't work. And that is pretty much it. Thank you very much. That's the presentation.
Thank you, Dave, for that very informative. I'm sure the audience, as you said, the red mite problem affects probably nearly all sheds. So I'm sure everybody's interested in that presentation and the results of the project. One question that has come in is around does formalin, use of formalin at the end of the flock, does that have any impact on the red mite?
Potent disinfectant will make it very uncomfortable for the red mite, so it will help. I don't know exactly where you're thinking of using it, but yeah, if on turnaround you're going in with a formalin, that's great. The most effective product is a product called Intercocask, which is a chlorocresol, but that has very, very, very good levels of success because it actually affects the eggs and it affects any living red mite as well. So I would 100% recommend that, and everybody that's used that has noticed a big reduction.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, no, I think it's really good to use your, you've got a lot of experience in a lot of the products that can be used to try and reduce red mite. But I mean, just coming back to the project that we did do at Oshans, we did find that yes, Exalt is effective, as you've said. It does kill them, and it is probably the more effective product out there on the market. However, it does have a date where the red might come back, and also the product was very expensive, wasn't it? So we'll come to Oshan maybe afterwards with Lee, but we did find that it is a tool, but it's not just a one-stop shop for a farmer to think, I'll just put Exalt in and that'll sort my red mite out. It's very much a tool to be used in combination maybe with other methods of trying to keep red mite down.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that. They're all just tools. So red mite's a stressor. So the bird will tolerate a certain amount of stress. So if it's got the stress of red mite, it'll be more susceptible to IB. If it's got the stress of IB, it'll be more susceptible to E. coli and then erysipelas. So I think there's great value in destroying the red mite population, at least during the summertime. And then if you can control with sprays, that's fantastic. If you don't need to use it at all, that's great as well.
Thank you both. Yes, and just to bring Oshan in now, you've obviously had red mite and you've used the various products. I believe you're also using a Pruex product as well. Yeah. What's your thoughts and opinions on the various products?
I thought Exalt was a fantastic product. I think if your burden's gone over the roof, I think perhaps you start off with Exalt, and then probably, if it was me, I would probably then try a herbal. We've been on Aled's product now since the hens came in. For the first time ever, I haven't actually grabbed a knapsack this flock. It's been totally on Aled's garlic mite product, and we've had fantastic performance, so it seems to be working.
And that garlic mite product, how is it administered and how regular?
It's been when it's delivered, you follow a diary really. But one thing, I think every farm is different. So I have actually been, we tinker with it really, because every time you go into the shed every day, you can see the red mites around, and if the red mites, they're starting to die and all that. If you see them healthy, you go in again with it. Really, it's important just to keep on top of them.
So you showed me some earlier on,
yeah.
And they were quite docile, and yeah. Like you said, they were dying. So yeah. They don't die as quickly as if they'd used Exalt. It's a slower process.
It's a very slow death.
Yeah.
If anything, when you start seeing them go ill, the blood, if you get older one and squash it on a piece of paper, you'll see the blood turns like red wine, and by the time they die, then they turn white.
Yeah.
So it was a fantastic product, though, and good value for money.
Thank you very much. So yeah, one question that's come in again back on the Crackless Egg Project. So one for you, Gwesen, and maybe Oshan. The question was, has the sort of Crackless egg test been done on floor eggs when you're going around picking up floor eggs and putting them in the basket, and also checking the force when the egg is laying on the system? Has any tests been done on that?
I think that's a really good and really interesting question. Not at Oshan's is the answer. Oshan's level of floor and system eggs were quite low during the flock compared to some. I've done some work on other units that have had higher level of floor eggs. And yes, the answer is floor eggs are more prone to seconds naturally, being collected, placed in a basket, walked around and unloaded. It's something that we could look at doing again at Oshan's place in due course if he has a flock with those issues. But it is definitely a correlation between higher levels of mostly hairline fractures is what you find in floor and system eggs. Rolling on the system and being placed in baskets might not be enough to visually crack the egg shell, but it will be enough to create a hairline fracture, which, as I said earlier, can be picked up in the packing station.
So the main sort of message there is just to be as careful as possible, and maybe use plastic buckets or something, or sort of put some tissue in the bucket so they don't have, and just place them in the bucket gently, I suppose. There's no other miraculous way of doing it. Floor eggs are floor eggs, aren't they?
Yeah, they are,
Okay, so those are our projects that have been undertaken here at the Wern over the last couple of years, and hopefully they will continue, and we will bring you more up-to-date results and information as it comes in. So the last bit is I'd like to just bring you up to date with some of the services from Farming Connect, and we have some slides on the current services. So as you're aware, surgeries are available. They're one-to-one, fully funded surgeries with an expert consultant in the field. They usually happen now digitally or over the phone, and will take place within 48 hours of the inquiry coming in. And as you can see, we cover a wide range of topics such as woodland, legal, business, planning, infrastructure, and grassland and soil analysis. So if you have any questions or issues at home on any of those topics or anything else, then please get in touch with us, with your local development officer, and we'll be able to put your inquiry through there for a fully funded surgery. The next service is the advisories, is the training and application window, which is opening now for accredited training on the 7th of next month, September. We've got over 80 courses that are up to 80% funded, and all individuals within registered businesses with Farming Connect are eligible to apply for those accredited training courses. Next, we have e-learning, and part of the accredited training is e-learning. We have a number of e-learning modules available free of charge for anybody who would like to access those. They're on a range of subjects from grassland to business to VAT to animal health issues. Then we go on to the animal health clinics. And these have come back really by popular demand. The clinics have been available since back in July, and cover any testing or sampling or advice on various animal health issues with your local vets, and you can see some of those on the screen. You have up to £250 per business to use on blood testing, ram, bull fertility, fecal egg counting, or post-mortems. It's on a first come, first served basis, and if you're interested in accessing the animal health clinics, then please get in touch with your local vet or the local development officer. Next, then, we have the Farm Liaison Service. So the Farm Liaison Service is a service through Welsh Government that can provide you with advice and support on the various Welsh Government schemes and grants and payment systems. And then last of all, as you can see there, you have a list of our 18 development officers. So they are basically the first point of contact for you as a registered business with Farming Connect. So I would encourage you, if you have any questions, any issues or any problems, and you think Farming Connect could help you with those, then please take note of your local development officer's telephone number and email address, and please, I'd encourage you to get in touch with them as soon as possible.
Thank you, Lee. We have just had actually another question, and we have just got a few minutes before we finish for this evening. Dee has asked, how effective is Exalt on consecutive litters, particularly when there is build-up of the parasite? So can that be directed to Dave, please?
Yeah, there's no resistance at all so far to Exalt. There's none been reported. I haven't seen any either. It's probably a good idea when your birds are housed and they're a bit lighter to do a treatment, because any bloodborne disease that was in the last flock will still be present in the red mite. And then when they start to feed again, that can become an issue, assuming you haven't been able to kill a significant enough number of them.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Dave. And then while we've got you, Dave, there is, you do a lot with vaccinations, don't you? So do you want to just touch on maybe a couple of the main things that we should vaccinate for as poultry farmers? And then maybe we can go to Lee and Oshan then, and Oshan just touches on what he's got his next flock vaccinated for.
Okay, so the key issue we've got at the minute is infectious bronchitis. The reason for that is cellular immunity is a lot more effective for it. So live vaccines needed for cellular immunity. So what you'll find at many of the larger operations, they'll be using a live vaccine every 6 to 8 weeks. What this does is it prevents the field challenge getting in, and it also does the job of colonizing the site with the vaccine strain. So in many cases, this can reduce seconds by up to 50%. And also IB is the gateway for E. coli. It's the gateway for mycoplasma. And it also weakens the bird over the course of the flock, which again becomes an issue. And then erysipelas overwhelms the bird later on. So IB is the main one. And then the other issue that you've got is Salmonella. So this, as we take birds longer, we're pushing them further past the tested period of efficacy. We have to manage the sites perfectly. So any kind of red mite that you've got, anything of that nature, any kind of rodent problem you might have, that becomes an issue. Biosecurity is an issue. And we've also found that using acids in the water is very complementary for lowering the pH of the gut and killing Salmonella.
Thank you for that, Dave. So yeah, just bringing Oshan in at the end then. What's your thoughts on vaccination, and what is your vaccination plan with your flocks?
We only vaccinate, all of our birds are vaccinated before they come to site. So I think Dave's got a list of what we actually do. But as soon as they arrive on site, we don't vaccinate nothing.
No.
So our focus has always been try to minimize the threats which cause infections. So it's just trying to make sure water, red mite, all that. The environment is fine. Hopefully you don't have problems.
Yeah. So really the main focus of the projects and your aim here at the Wern is to create an environment that is as amenable to the hen and support her in when she might get a challenge, so she is as strong as possible.
Yeah, it is. It's about boosting the immune system, making sure the immune system is working perfectly, and hopefully we won't have any issues.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Oshan. Just finally, to bring to your attention, in the coming weeks, Farming Connect will be running some workshops, digital workshops around water quality, looking at range management, good practice, bad practice, looking at nutrient management and manure storage as well. You will be getting an invite as a poultry business with Farming Connect for those workshops, but keep an eye out for those. Those will be early October. Kath is also looking for a focus site. So similar to Oshan here as a demonstration site, we're also looking for a poultry focus site to run a project for 1 year. So it's just the one project around range management and those sort of aspects. So anybody at home that's watching that might be interested in getting involved in as a focus site with Farming Connect, or just interested and want to know more, then please contact Farming Connect and Kath to find out more about that. So basically, our next Demo Farm Live will take place 2 weeks today on the 2nd of September, and it'll be at our dairy demonstration site at Erwvawr. So I do hope that you can join us again then in 2 weeks time. But basically that's about it for this evening. I'd just like to thank all our speakers for their input and their time and effort in the projects and this evening. But most of all, I'd just like to thank Osian, Nikki and the family, the Williams family here at the Wern, for not only getting involved in the projects but also hosting us here this afternoon for all their time and effort. So, noswaith dda, many thanks, and I hope to see you again.